Hey everybody, this is 22 Tiger Dude and welcome to Animation Domination Reviews. Let's start it off with the Bob's Burgers episode, Mazel Tina. This episode is about when Tammy does not invite Tina to her bat mitzvah, and Tina is actually the only one not invited. Everyone else is. She doesn't make it into her guest list, so Tina, desperately wanting to go to the party, she tries to figure out a way to go into Tammy's party. The only way she could get into her party, though, is if Bob and the family, they go to her party to cater it. Tina ends up in Tammy's party, and she's definitely taking over Tammy's bat mitzvah. Let's just say that. Positives is that this episode does actually have some funny moments. There were moments that I legitimately really enjoyed. For example, the whole catering thing was really funny, and I enjoyed how Linda left to go try all the food, and then later on you see Bob enjoy all the food and they're just getting carried away with it. It was funny to see Gene take care of the whole catering thing by himself, and it was funny to see Louise try to distract Tammy while Tina's trying to have the time of her life. So there are enjoyable aspects to it, and the thing with the whole big Tammy head, that was pretty enjoyable. Now, my problems with this episode. 1. Tammy is such an annoying and bratty bitch. She treats her parents horribly, and you just really do not care about this character, Tammy. Tammy does not deserve the party, especially how she just treats her parents, and it's just so utterly ridiculous. The episode gets boring in a couple of moments, and it also does get really annoying in a few moments as well. I also do have to say the storyline doesn't really have that much to offer, and overall it's just one forgettable episode. Overall, this Bob's Burgers episode, it's not the best, but certainly not the worst. It's just entertaining. I'll give this episode a 6.5 out of 10. Now we go on to American Dad. There's a parody of Charlie's Angels where Stan and Francine, they're on a vacation to Sacramento, and they get sidetracked when they befriend a quartet of these stewardesses, very sexy women, but they go undercover to thwart Mark Cuban's plan to blow up the sun. But the subplot has another parody, which parodies the movie Face Off with John Travolta and Nicolas Cage. Really good movie, by the way. That one's about when Roger switches faces with Steve so he could help him win over a hot girl at school. But of course, Roger, knowing his asshole self, he takes over and he refuses to even give back his face to Steve. It wasn't until Roger actually found out that the hot girl is pregnant, and I'll leave it up to you to figure out what happens from there. So I gotta say, this American Dad episode was really boring. It was not very interesting, and it's definitely one of the worst episodes of the season. I really didn't give a shit about the Roger and Steve plot. Roger was a huge jerk to Steve. He really got on my nerves here, and I literally wanted to punch him in the face. That's how much I really hated Roger here. And then the Stan and Francine plot, unfortunately, that's slightly more boring than the Roger-Steve plot itself. It's not very funny, the plot is stupid, and the ending to the plot especially, it's horribly paced, the execution feels really off. Both of the plots, they offer nothing that's special. And the whole time I'm watching this episode, I actually found myself almost falling asleep. It was very uninteresting, and it was very stupid. Some parts literally made me angry. The only positive this episode has going for it is that it has a few funny moments, but that's all it has, honestly. Very bad plots, very bad execution, very bad pacing. It's just not good. I give this episode a 3 out of 10. Now I'm on to the Simpsons episode, the winter of his content. So this episode is about when Grandpa's retirement home is in a health violation. So Marge takes Grandpa and 3 other old men to stay at their house for a while until they resolve the whole health violations problem at the retirement home. But with those old men at the home, it makes Homer go into the old man lifestyle. Meanwhile, in the subplot, Bart, he joins the bullies and some little misadventure after Bart actually defends Nelson for his little hand-me-down underwear because Nelson was publicly humiliated up until Bart defended him, which is really cool of Bart. This is a really good episode. I really enjoy it. I think the main plot is much better though. I love the main plot. I really enjoy the subplot. It's just a very creative Simpsons episode. The writers were fresh. They had really great ideas. Very funny. I really enjoy how Homer is hanging out with Grandpa and the other old men that are staying at the home for a while. It's just so funny to see Homer act like he's an old man. But it's sweet at the same time because he's actually having fun hanging out with Grandpa and the other elderly men that are staying at the home. It's sweet, actually. As for the Bart subplot, it's very clever because you could see like a little parody of The Warriors, such a classic action film. Watch that film if you haven't. The subplot that Bart has with the bullies, it does a little parody of that. I found it to be a very clever plot. It actually has a connection to the main plot by the end of the episode, which I really enjoy. Even though my problem with the episode is that the ending is really rushed. And a couple of times the Bart plot was a little convoluted. Like a couple of things just didn't make sense. It just felt a little random and made the plot a couple of times just feel off. Overall though, I really had a fun time watching this episode. It's so great. I give the episode The Winter of His Content a 9 out of 10. Now I'm here to review the Family Guy episode 3 Acts of God. This episode is about when the boys aren't happy with how the New England Patriots are playing. They don't like how they keep losing the game, and they're assuming it has something to do with God actually messing up the game for them. So it's up to Peter, Joe, Quagmire, and yes, Cleveland is actually visiting Quahog to watch the game with them. So Cleveland even joins along in this adventure to go find God so the guys could tell him to stop messing with their football game. It is really ridiculous, but that's what makes this episode so damn enjoyable. I really like this episode. I found a lot of enjoyment in it, and yes, we have Cleveland coming back to the show very soon, which I'm looking forward to. But even though he's not back yet, it's still good to see Cleveland actually visit Quahog and join in on this adventure to find God with the guys. The plot was really well handled. Some of the humor was really funny. Humor that didn't involve the cutaways. I'll get to that in a little bit. But some of the humor was really funny. Once we do get to the scene where the guys actually talk to God, it was really funny. I was highly entertained. It has a ridiculous plot, but it was handled in such a well done manner that I just found myself laughing at some moments and enjoying the overall flow of the plot. I gotta give credit to the writers for actually coming up with something like this, but just making it just really good. My only flaws with the episode is that the cutaways, they're not that great. I do think the cutaways were really dumb. They didn't provide anything. They were just too stupid and they feel forced. The cutaways, they try to make you laugh, but they just didn't get a laugh out of me. And I didn't like the ending. Yes, it has to do with another Meg. Spoiler alert, as you can see from the ending, Peter actually requested God to make Meg not exist. The episode actually ends with Meg disappearing. Wow, Peter. Wow. 3 Acts of God. Really strong premiere. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10.